Okay, it's the LDS Mormon Valentine's Day update. It's the day before Trump shuts down the government, even though the left-wing media is all saying Trump's gonna cave, Trump's gonna cave, he's taking less money and he's gonna cave, he's gonna sign the bipartisan bill, he's gonna cave. It's like nobody bothers to look at his history, what he does on a regular basis. The last time he shut down the government, a full Republican bill with more money was rejected by him. It's just unbelievable, the con show they like to put on for us. So there's only so much allocation you can do, that you're going to need more money. Trump needs more money, and if he's going to build a wall, not finish a wall, as the right-wing media tells him. Alright, so translation update. Yesterday I had computer problems, as I indicated, and people were telling me to spend more money on a better quality product, and so I had to respond by saying, you don't do that. You don't tell people to spend more money in the types of financial situation that we're in. The Windows product is supposed to work. It's not supposed to give us problems. The fact that it does give us problems, the fact that it's a target for viruses, malware, hacking, that's a problem with Windows that they need to fix. And we need a government that'll keep them in check. So anyway, and then also a neighbor had some health problems yesterday, and so I was needed to help him. And so I didn't get to the translation that I was hoping for yesterday. Yesterday was day 3 of no contact from a lawyer, Scott Boyd, who promised to get back to me in regards to whether there was a lawsuit available against the church, the LDS Church. I guess I can tell you guys, in my neighborhood there are a number of disabled persons, both physically and mentally. Both these physically and mentally disabled persons are on Social Security and Social Security disability. If you're not familiar with the amount of money Social Security gives, it's less than a full-time minimum wage job. And they purposely do that as a deterrent from people living the rest of their lives on Social Security. The only problem is that these people that are on it can't work. So there is no cheating the system. These people are dependent upon government money or charity or whatever, wherever, for their support. They can't do it on their own. That's why they're disabled. And so the Republican mindset of put them to work and have them get a better job is just abusive. And it's inhumane. And it's a war crime, a hate crime. And So the church likewise is forcing disabled persons to pay their tithing from the government money. Now, if you'll recall, Utah had no problem taking down the FLDS church, getting that Warren Jeffs and his whole crew who pled so that they can go free, and Warren Jeffs serves the rest of his life in prison over SNAP fund violations. The members would claim a need for SNAP money, and then they would give it as consecration to the bishops, or as tithing, whatever you want to call it, to the bishops. Government money to the bishops. And the bishops would allocate it out to everybody, not just the person who it was allocated to. This is what the church is doing, the Mormon church is doing with Social Security and Social Security disability. They're requiring tithing to be given to the church from government money, and then it gets distributed for the purpose of building buildings and publishing Book of Mormons and stuff like that. So it doesn't go back to the members in a reallocation. It goes to the religion. So the religion itself is stealing from those with the disability. This is a hate crime, guys. It's a no-brainer in the courts. So the reason why Scott is taking so long to respond can only mean that he's not serious about taking the case, and that he didn't have the courage to come right out and tell me, no, we're not going to take the case. I'm a Mormon, and so I'm not going up against the church. It's no-brainer. You know, when you have the church say, you must pay us in order to go to the temple. And if you don't pay us, you don't get a temple recommend. You go down on the records as a non or partial payer of tithing, and you don't get a temple recommend. You don't get to go to the temple. This is a no-brainer hate crime, financial fraud. So, yeah, I'm very disappointed that the lawyer didn't respond. And so, yeah, is there a lawyer in Utah that will go up against the church to stop their abuse? No, it's a David and Goliath syndrome. It's that simple. You know, you don't have to be a skilled, talented lawyer firm. You just have to go up against the church and point it out. They are Goliath, and anybody who goes up against them is David. So this is a problem that the church is getting away with. This is a horrible crime. So, and then there are other crimes that are debatable because the church claims to be a religion. So unless we can establish that the church is a fraud, claiming to be a religion when they're not, which is difficult to do because they have that thing called General Conference. But their day-to-day transactions are corporate-minded. So that makes it difficult. And the third update for you is the hit job on me. As I've indicated, the church has put out a hit on me. They've done it for a long time now. And it's because I wanted my kids back. And they and the state of Utah are saying, hell no, we're punishing you to silence you, Travis. And so here I am, free. After 6 years, I was freed. It was miraculous. It shouldn't have happened. They made a mistake with the retirement and placement of new people with 3 positions. They were not updated and informed on my situation and why I needed to remain away from society. And so they all had to consent and let me go. And here I am. And so it wasn't supposed to happen. And as a result, they almost murdered me. The drugs that they put me on, they only had me on one. Other people in my situation are on multiple drugs. They've got these guys doped up. It's horrendous. Pharmaceutical company is making a killing off of the most vulnerable in our society. And that's debatable as to whether that's worse than the crime that the church is committing. But Orrin Hatch is involved with pharmaceutical companies. He takes bribes from them. He was, I think, involved in a scandal with pharmaceutical company some years back. But regardless, the West Valley City Police, instead of taking my complaint against those who likewise were replaced in the position, the new people decided they would threaten me with an ultimatum threat. And it's just ridiculous. People claiming, I didn't threaten you. No, I don't know what you're talking about. I'm just wanting to help you. It's like, you dummy. You gave me an ultimatum. That's a threat. It's like corrupt people think that who they go after are so stupid that they're just going to say, oh, okay, whatever you say, because you're helping me. And so, yeah, they threatened me, and I reported it to the authorities. The authorities eventually came, like a month later, and said, we're threatening you with an ultimatum threat. It's like, what? And the officer had a camera. She recorded her own threat to me. And then they debate. You know, crime is not a crime. Threats are not threats. It's like, oh my God, how do I get you guys out of here? Oh, well, we're not going to leave unless you comply and give the person who's threatening you your phone number so that they can harass you on the phone. Oh my God, what a nightmare. And so, yes, I reported on the officers to Internal Affairs. And of course, they're not responding. If you remember Nurse Wubbles at the University of Utah, that went nationwide. Her situation didn't happen immediately when it went nationwide. It was 2 months later somebody put the video out nationwide. And as a result of, after 2 months, but it going nationwide, they had to do something, and he had to be terminated from his job for arresting the nurse for refusing to violate the patient's First Amendment right, or it could be First Amendment rights, but constitutional rights. There's really nothing in the Constitution about blood samples, but he was unconscious. He couldn't give consent. And so the nurse said, "No, officer, you have to go through the proper procedures." And he said, "I'm an officer. You will do what I say. You're under arrest." That's Utah for you. You know, and so the officers, the police department, were put in a difficult position because the officer just was doing what every other officer in Utah does, but it's now a national exposure. So they had no choice but to sacrifice him for his criminal behavior, even though they weren't going to do anything after 2 months. And so this is what I expect from West Valley City, that they're not going to do anything. They're just going to ignore it, not pursue legal charges, when a person who is been placed in a position, whether he is or isn't, to consist of a third-degree felony charge in the state of Utah as a hate crime. Yes, attacking me is a hate crime. So that's the mistake they made in letting me go. They turned me into a third-degree felony hate crime for anyone to touch me. But, of course, if it's the police and the government, they do whatever they want without accountability, without being called out on it. And so I'm going to be ignored, apparently, and nothing will be done to the officers who threatened my life and got it on tape. And Mayor Bigelow, Ron Bigelow, I know him, he's Mormon. He lives just down the block. Silence, crickets, Mormon crickets everywhere. And so, just like Scott Boyd, crickets. Nobody wants to go up against the church who controls the government. And yes, the church controls the government. When you have a dominant religion in a state, and we're not talking about 51%. We're talking about having settled this land. They own Utah, even though the federal government came in and said, Utah, you'll be a territory. Now Utah, you'll be a state. And Mormons, you have to give up polygamy, and you have to give up this economic system you're doing. They gave up the economic system just fine. But they didn't stop polygamy. They still practice it. I've told you guys about it. You guys know about it if you're Mormon and you're divorced. Remember? You're still sealed to your ex. And women, you have to get permission from the First Presidency to cancel your sealing when you find someone to marry. Before you get approval to marry that new person. Men, however, only need your permission now, if you're a woman and an ex, to allow him to marry someone else. And you're still sealed to him. You're still married to him. That's polygamy. The church is still practicing polygamy. The church is fully acceptable of the state recognizing the church's marriages in the temple, the sealings, but the church has no respect and does not acknowledge the divorce decrees by the laws of the land. And so, isn't it interesting that the temple orders members of the church to have no sexual relations except with your husbands or wives to whom you are legally and lawfully wedded. They accept the divorce upon us that we have to comply with. But they, the leaders of the church, do not acknowledge and respect the legal divorces. Happy days. And that's only for sex. See, polygamy doesn't indicate having sex with these people. It's just being legally married to people. And that's what we are in the church. I am still legally married to my second ex who divorced me last year. So if I get married, it doesn't matter if it's in the church or at the courts. The law of the land only sees one marriage, but the church now recognizes two marriages. Polygamy. So this is not good, Mormons. You gots to leave. And so, yeah, the church is still putting out a hit on me, and they use it through Mormons. They don't have to give the order themselves. This isn't like a crime boss family situation. The church, it's their land, regardless of the United States thinking they own a claim to it. The church has never let the government have this land. They were forced to have non-Mormons sit in the governor's seat for a long time, all during Brigham Young's last days. A non-Mormon had to sit on the throne in Utah, dethroning Brigham Young from his kingdom. But yeah, we've had a Mormon on the governorship for a long time now, I believe. At least since I've been here. You know, you have Huntsman and now Herbert. And I think even the lieutenant governor who, wasn't she governor temporarily? I can't remember. But I think she too is a Mormon. Yeah. And so, yeah, the legislature in Utah, Mormon, dominantly Mormon. And those who aren't Mormon are distinct enough, and they step out of the closet, so to speak, to let you know that they're not Mormon. The only ones where we don't have a Mormon running the government has been the Salt Lake City mayor. Most of the time, you have somebody who's not Mormon. So Biskupski, I don't think she's Mormon. I'm pretty sure she's not Mormon, because she criticizes the church. That's what she ran on. And Rocky Anderson, he's not Mormon, because he's now suing the church, and unless it's gone silent with the church's interference with Prop 2 or 3, no, 3 is Medicaid that the church interfered with through Governor Herbert, and Prop 2 was medical marijuana. Church interfered with that. Church came out and said before to Mormons, vote no on it. Mormons voted yes on it, so then the church went to the legislature and said, change it. And so the legislature complied immediately. See, these are Mormons in the legislature. They do what they think the church wants them to do. And if they're not, then the church comes out and says, do it this way. And they go, yes, master, yes, master. So they don't have to do it directly all the time. Only when the legislature steps out of line, or when the people vote incorrectly. So it's evident that the church controls this land. And that ain't right. The founding fathers did not foresee this as a dominant religion possessing a single state in the Union. There was diversity in the United States, in the colonies. And so there's no way they could have foreseen that. And now you know why government has to be kept separate from religion. You can't have religion dominating the politics of a state, especially a nation. I mean, everybody knows about the history of this world where religion has dominated the state, the nation, the country, whatever. And it is a horrible thing. Horrible atrocities occur. You know, like discrimination, hate crimes, felony crimes against the disabled, for example. And, you know, the disabled people, they can't even get assistance from the church, from the bishop's storehouses, because the bishops demand that they work. They can't work. That's why they're receiving Social Security. And so, as a result, the people get the understanding, okay, I can't work, so I am not allowed to have assistance from the church. This is a horrible atrocity that's going on. And I'm right in the middle of it. And so, as you are aware, when you have a government control of a state, the people in positions of authority are members of that dominant religion. They then think they are working for God, that they are working for the church, and that everything they do must be in harmony with the church, even though they're supposed to give loyalty to the United States Constitution and grant citizens their rights to life, liberty, property. Instead, they're coming after me because they believe they are an authority and I need to submit to them. And so therefore they're threatening me with the ultimatum threats. And they're ignoring me when I complain, because they are an authority, not me. I have no rights. I have to comply. Those are my rights under their eyes. And so that's the hit job. And it's a subtle one. It's never understood in the rest of this nation, because no other state in this union has a religion dominating the government of the state. So nobody sees how it operates. Nobody recognizes it on the outside. Those of us on the inside know full well. You can't get a job if you're known to be non-Mormon or critical of the Mormon church, because the businesses are run by Mormons. If they recognize you as being contrary to the standards of the church, you're not getting the job. And so you have to, it's segregated. Non-Mormons have to go to non-Mormon jobs. Those are the people that work on Sunday. But for Mormons, Mormons have to find Mormon jobs. And those are scarce, because I saw it at Blockbuster when I would interview people for jobs. They were constantly saying, my religion requires that I not work on Sunday. Well, we're looking for somebody who can work on Sunday. We can't just hire people and not have anybody available on Sunday. We're looking for somebody who can work on Sunday. And so people just didn't understand. They wanted to control the business with their religion. I have religious rights and you will conform to them. No, it doesn't work that way. First of all, your Sabbath is a fraud. And I've already done the videos on this. The Jewish Sabbath is a Babylonian holy day. That's where they got it from. They were taken captive into Babylon. When they came back, they adopted the Babylonian ways. The language, Hebrew, was changed. Their holidays, holy days, were now Babylonian. Their calendar was now Babylonian. And I've seen people try to argue this. No, it was that way before because the Bible says so. The Bible was written after the captivity. It's just, come on, people. And so, why is it on Sunday for Christians and Mormons? I don't understand. It's because of Constantine. You know, the Nicene Creed. He also said, we're now going to have a special holy day on Sunday. And he still allowed for a Saturday Sabbath as well. And so he tried to do a slow process change. And it was a later pope, or just tradition of the Christians, I can't remember which, I'd have to look it up again, where Sunday just became the day for the Sabbath instead of Saturday. And it's understandable because Christians don't want to be associated with Jews, and they want to be the new religion in town. And so, yeah, change to Sunday. And then you have Pope Gregory, who creates the Gregorian calendar that we now have today. And it solidified the Sabbath on Sunday, the day of the sun, the day of worshiping the sun god. So there's a little history for you. So Mormons, why are you having the Sabbath? I've already done the temple video that the sacrament was held anytime you went to the temple. You gave your offerings of food and drink, bread and water. Sound any familiar? You'd bring it to the temple. The priests would then present it before the statue of the god in the Holy of Holies. It would then be blessed. And then a portion would be given back to the people who gave the offerings as a sacrament. That's the origin of the sacrament. Jesus did not institute the sacrament. Wrong. Jesus was doing that which had been done anciently by the Egyptians. And it didn't matter if it was on a Saturday or a Sunday or whatever day. You can do it whenever. You don't need one day to do it. That was the Campbellites that Sidney Rigdon had belonged to. And it was Sidney Rigdon who wanted to continue the Campbellite tradition of a Sunday Sabbath. There you go. That's why. And you say, no, Sidney Rigdon didn't get baptized until later that year, in 31, I think. Or was it 30? It was the end of the year. I can't remember which year. But, yeah, if you've not done your research on the linguistics of the Book of Mormon, you will not recognize that Sidney Rigdon was involved with the church from the beginning. Even though he comes into the picture at a later time. So, anyway, enough of that. I don't want to stray onto that topic for you. I've now shocked you enough. So, that's the update. So, we'll try to get the translation done today. Because it's not going to take long to do. I need to put in the picture and then an explanation, next picture, explanation, next picture, explanation, so on and so forth. It should go rather quickly if I can get around to doing it without interruptions, without interference, without problems, and blah, blah, blah. So it's not going to take me long to do. It's not very hard. So yes, it's not going to be a translation of, and thus spoketh Johannaphaniah to Gregorianiah, thus saith the Lord. You know, it's not going to be that kind of translation. These are glyph pictures. You got to understand what the glyphs are talking about and how they are reused depending on how the story is to be taken from them. And I've already given that explanation, so I'm not going to go into it here. So, yeah, and go to my website. You can see the introduction. The introduction's done, and I've published it online for people to look at. So, yeah, it'll be done. I just need to be left alone to do it. So, happy Valentine's Day. So yes, I don't have a woman to interfere in my which I'd rather have that. I want that interference, but that's not an option right now, so oh well.